Foodies pride themselves on variety and quality. They always know where to get the best meals all over a city. But what if your face was designed around finding a single food item? The Acorn Weevil has a face that is specially made to find, evaluate, and consume acorns. And that's not all they do when they find a good one. Becoming a specialist and refining your taste buds is a great way to excel in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, Richard Caspar, Lottie and Aubrey, Gray Hughes, and Wednesday Rabbit. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about a drill-faced fuzzy bug, but more on that later.
Yeah, it's like a Pokemon. Just it's a bug. Put a drill on it.
Yeah.
Now it's ground bug type. One of the worst types. But yeah, we're talking about the Acorn Weevil.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because when you put it on the list, it said you spelled it Weavile, which is a Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm very bad at spelling the word Weevil, I found.
And it's not even
Until
a bug
now.
Pokemon. It's just like a weird like ice cat. So
I want it to be Weaval. Weevil. What's that
Weavile.
term? The linguistics term for a vowel that could be anything?
unstressed vowel.
Unstressed vowel.
Like human, the second vowel in human. If you made it any other vowel, it would still say human. If it was HUMON, it would be human. If it was HUMEN, it would be human. If it was HUMIN, it would be human. So it's because it's unstressed, so it just makes a sound.
That's the sound.
Yeah, it's just a sound. It could be anything. But anyway, we are talking about the Acorn Weevil, which we're going to call here Weevil Knievel. Weevil Wobble. That's low-hanging fruit. And Old Ironsides, which is... So follow my train of thought here. Old Ironsides is the nickname given to the USS Constitution during the War of 1812 because it had these super thick hulls and the cannon shot would bounce off of it. The USS Constitution is the enemy ship that the Acorn was based off of from Master and Commander, starring Russell Crowe in like 2005 or something like that. And in Master and Commander, there is a scene where Russell Crowe's character tells a joke about weevils. It ends with the lesser of two weevils. And so I was trying to tie that, because all I was thinking about was that joke, because I saw Master and Commander last year again. And I was trying to tie it in, and hopefully that was a train that people could follow.
It's funny you say that, because I was thinking the pronunciation would be more clear if it was pronounced Weevil.
Like Mermaid Man.
Yeah.
Weevil. Let's
Yeah.
taxonomize this.
Okay.
It's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in. You like it, love it, gotta have it. Kingdom Animalia. Man, I want ice cream. The phylum is Arthropoda. The class is Insecta. It's an insect. I have this book, this alphabet book that we read with the kids. They love it. But for I, it says I is for insects that can't stop wriggling. And they show a ladybug and a spider.
Oh
And so,
my gosh.
and when you and at this stage with kids, like they ask a lot of questions, like like these are bugs. A spider's a bug. It's like no. Spider's an arachnid. It's not an insect or a bug. I don't know why they put it there. I'm sorry, son. I've let you down. They've let you down. We need a new book. The order for the weevil is is Coleoptera. These are beetles. The family is Curculionidae. That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or Circulionidae. That works too. The genus is Circulio or Curculio. And the species is Glandium. So Curculio glandium or Circulio glandium. That brings... Oh, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, nitty-gritty nomenclature. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, what is the English translation for the binomial nomenclature? Circulio or Curculio glandium. What does that mean in English? Does it mean A, round gland, B, bent kernel, C, circular organ, or D, wavy arena? Round gland, bent kernel, circular organ, wavy arena.
The kernel one?
Bent kernel,
Final
B?
answer? Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Ooh.
Nice. Yes, circulio means bent. Glandium is a kernel of, which is a part of a pork meat.
Pork?
Yeah, it's not like a popcorn. It's not like a corn kernel. It is a...
That's funny because I chose it because it looks kind of like a corn kernel.
It does kind of look like that. But nope, it has to do with pork. Which, man, ice cream and then pork. Those two things don't go like together all that well, but it's still making me hungry. Would you like to know about what this guy looks like?
Mm-hmm. If you don't have a favorite bug, this is a good contender. If you want to get into the world of having a favorite bug, this is a silly little guy.
If you always wanted a favorite bug but didn't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a favorite bird, you have a favorite mammal, but bugs are just too complicated. Interesting. Mine was always the Hercules beetle as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks so cool. But yeah, this one's pretty good. There's also the one that hamstrings frogs and eats them slowly from the back, going forward.
Mm-hmm.
That one's pretty metal.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for in a favorite bug.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a silly little guy, that's definitely not it.
Yeah, that's a little bit more on the Thunderdome side of things. Battle Royale. All right, so let's talk about what the acorn weevil looks like. The acorn weevil has a distinctive elongated snout. It can be as long as his body. It's relatively small overall, the body. It has a hard, shiny exoskeleton, old Ironsides. It's usually brown or reddish in color. It has antennae. They're curved and positioned on that long snout, and there's a slight bend near the middle. It has short, sturdy legs. They're good for climbing trees and maneuvering on, well, you guessed it, acorns. It has the exoskeleton has like a rough kind of appearance to it. Has these kind of ridges on it, and it's got bug eyes, little small dark segmented eyes on the side of its head, allowing it to see in all directions, but in no direction particularly well. Prey animal vision.
Its face evokes gas mask. Because it's got these big black eyes, and a rostrum. And that's all the features of its face.
This there's in the video game Hollow Knight is a video game where you play as a bug in a world of bugs, and there is a map maker named Cornifer, and I'm pretty sure he's a weevil.
Mm.
He looks just like this, and he's like the friendliest guy ever, because in a world of evil bugs that are trying to kill you, he's the guy that sells you the map. All right, but like I said, he's very small. I mean, he does like acorns, so... But squirrels like acorns, and they're probably bigger than a weevil. I said weevil. Ah, got Pokemon in the brain. You did this to me.
Well, that brings us to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We do have a new measure up intro this week.
It has been a long, dry spell.
Which I'm glad of, because I did not know what to do for Weevil. I guess I could have done
Cornifer.
Except
he doesn't say anything. He hums.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll accept humming. But no, we have a dearth. No, not a dearth. The opposite of a dearth.
An embarrassment. We have an embarrassment of measure ups.
No, an embarrassment of listener interaction this week.
Oh, nice.
Chanel has written in and sent in 2 measure ups. She says, "Hey, Joe and Carlos, Chanel here again, and after quite a while, I've finally gotten around to making more measure ups. I had the honor of interviewing Alvin and the Chipmunks recently, and they've helped make one of the measure ups. So I'll give them a shout. So give them a shout out if you can. I'd also like you guys to know that I never had the patience to sit and listen to people talk while not being able to see them, as in a movie or a TV show. So I was never into podcasts, and I'm still not, other than you guys, because you're both very entertaining and teach me so much. Thanks for being the only podcast cool enough for me to listen."
That is about as high of praise as I could possibly imagine for this show.
We are among an elite group of 1 in Chanel's world of listening.
Yeah, and we record these and put them on YouTube, so you can watch them on YouTube and see our faces. I don't know if that may not make the experience better. Not sure.
Certainly doesn't.
But if not seeing our faces is a deterrent, then it's always there. But that is awesome. We're the only podcast she listens
to. Isn't that great?
I feel so underqualified for that. Anytime I listen to another podcast, I'm like, man, we gotta like step up our game, or we gotta do this other thing. Like they're way funnier, way more entertaining, or something like that. And so sometimes someone just drops by and says, "You guys are doing well." So that is good to hear.
That feels good on my brain.
Thank you, Chanel. It's good on the brain.
Thank you very much. Well, let's hear this measure up from the Chipmunks.
Oh, I'm excited for this one. Bring it on.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. That was all of the gang.
That was 5. How many? Where'd the other 2 chipmunks come from?
That was Alvin and Simon.
And Theodore.
The other Theodore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their kids. Their
there's
parents.
5, so I assume Chanel was. She said they helped.
Oh yeah.
So there's one of them.
And then like just Chip, not Dale.
No, it's like the 5th Beatle. It was like Pete Best or something. Thank you,
That's
Chanel.
awesome. Thank you.
And we will be thanking you again next week because she sent in a second one. And then also we got a comment from Sadie or Slady Wolf on YouTube. Heart you guys so much. Help me with calming my thoughts down at night, and have taught me things I didn't know about. 10 out of 10 recommended their podcast.
Awesome.
We should be more ASMR.
Yeah, should I get a little bit
sleep.
closer to the mic if someone's trying to sleep?
Yeah, just get right on top of the mic.
If I had David Attenborough's voice, I would totally do that.
There's a lot of like ASMR where you hear the mouth sounds, like the smacking, which sounds like not good.
I will. I mean, if that's your thing, more power to you. That is just
yak.
yeah. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to yoke anyone's yak. Man, it's been a while since we've said that. We even got like little binders. Bibby made his got his little binders printed that said "Don't yoke my yak." But just listening to someone's mouth sounds is just does not sound like a fun time. My uncle has misophonia that's gotten worse over time. So if he can hear you eating, it grates on him like nails on a chalkboard. It makes him really irritated. So like the idea, I mean, his kids like prank him all the time by sending him like, oh, here's a video of like an otter eating a carrot or something like that.
Please tell me it's not the uncle that sells popcorn.
Yeah, it is. It is
a noisy food.
Yep. He does what he has to. That's not as bad as like if you were to like eat macaroni and cheese, like the stirring mac and cheese sound that like.
Crunching's not as bad as smacking.
Yeah, that's what he absolutely hates. Anyway, we were way off track. Tell us
Let's talk about their length.
How long it is, yeah.
They're 4.2 to 13 millimeters. The Acorn Weevil is the same length as A, 1/7 a standard football in the NFL. Or B, 1.2th acorn, an acorn.
Tooth?
Yeah, 1.2nd. Is that how you would say that?
That's a good question. Probably.
There's
a decimal as the denominator for a fraction.
That's a good. Yeah.
That's
what it would be.
That seems unacceptable.
So like 1.2 times 2.
I don't like that. That seems like heresy. Math heresy.
How would you express this normally?
I don't know.
Be a simplified way.
The math part of my brain has been asleep for years. It only kind of like wakes up a little bit for this show, and that's it.
Or is it C, 4 mustard seeds?
How many inches is 14 millimeters?
Half inch, actually.
A half of an inch.
13 millimeters.
So it's definitely not the football. And 1.2 mustard seeds. Final answer. So you need 3 weevils worth of faith to move a mountain.
The correct answer, I don't remember. 1 second. I don't remember which one is the correct answer.
You gotta bold it. For
I usually do, and I forgot to bold it.
You gotta do some bolding for soup. I'll stop the world and melt with you.
I think it is the acorn. B. Because a football. Yeah, because a football is 11.2 inches, which means 5.6 weevils go into a football.
Yeah, football, half an inch.
And an acorn is like an inch or half, two inches, 1.5 inches, 6 centimeters, 6 to 4 centimeters, 4 to 6 centimeters.
The way to express that is to find the length of the acorn and the length of the weevil, and then make that a decimal.
Yeah, it would be, but that's
too
much work.
Why would you even bother with a fraction in this case, unless it is exactly like a normal fraction?
Because I know that 1.2, that a weevil goes 1.2 weevils. I don't know. We're done with fractions.
If it's not a half, a third, a quarter, or an eighth, or a tenth, I'd say a tenth, then you should do a decimal.
Dewey Decimal. Let's talk about the length of their snout.
If we have to.
Females, they're also 13 millimeters because they're about the same length or sometimes longer than their body length, which you mentioned. Male proboscises are shorter for reasons I'll talk about later. The acorn weevil has a snout that is the same length as a 1/4000th the Mingo oak. Or
what?
B, 13 poppy seeds. Or C, 21 strands of cow hair.
I want a lemon poppy seed muffin. I'm just got food on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Even though when you think of poppy seeds, you think of heroin.
Yeah. I think of everything bagels.
Do you? I think of the Wizard of Oz. She passes out in a field of poppy seeds.
Poppies. I don't know, she sounds like Stitch.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie. The tree.
The Mingo oak?
The oak tree. 1/4000th of an oak tree or whatever.
Final answer.
Yes.
The correct answer is B, 13 poppy seeds. The Mingo oak is a West Virginian white oak, and it's the tallest oak tree in the world. And I guessed 4,000. And I checked, and it turned out to be like 4,500. So I was pretty close.
That was dangerously close to having two right answers.
Yeah. But that's all I got. Do you have any fast facts before we get into the major fact?
I sure do. So the acorn weevil lives in the eastern U.S. as well as England, Morocco, and Ontario. It seems like it goes where England goes or where England went. And as you can tell from Ontario, it does not mind the cold. So we'll talk about in a second how it handles the cold. It eats acorns, believe it or not. That's its primary diet. It lays eggs in the acorns, and the larvae hatch and eat their way out of the acorn throughout the course of the winter. And they have a tendency to effectively sterilize acorn-bearing trees, mostly oaks, because acorns that are infected by eggs can't reproduce, and acorns are they're the seeds, the way that an acorn-bearing tree makes new trees. The way that they avoid that they can survive through winter is actually by lowering their supercooling point. Not their freezing point, their supercooling point. And they do this because they can't survive ice crystals forming in their body fluids. Some bugs can. They can crystallize up and then thaw and live through and be fine afterwards. But weevils can't. So when they live in Canada, they obviously have to do something about how cold it gets. So seasonally, their supercooling point lowers. And this is done using antifreeze proteins that stop ice crystals from forming. Ice crystals, in order for water to turn into ice at freezing, it needs impurities, little particles the crystals can form onto, and then it builds really quickly from there. With pure H2O, nothing else in there, water won't freeze until around -40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is coincidentally the same in Celsius, -40. This is where those two converge. And that's not something I knew. I didn't know you could cool water to -40 without freezing it, as long as it's pure water. The problem is almost no water is pure water. So there's always something, carbon from the air, nitrogen from the air gets in there, and that can crystals can form. So using pure water, using antifreeze proteins, and these things that are pretty complicated, cryoprotectants, these just stop ice crystals from forming in their bodily fluids, which allows them to survive very cold temperatures. And it also depends on the species of oak acorns that the larvae live in. They have a better chance of surviving if they're in like a red oak versus I don't remember what the other kinds of oaks are. One started with a B. I don't know. I know animals.
A Gary
not
oak?
Trees. Gary oak.
Which is a real oak tree?
This one's Gary. They're all gonna be Gary.
Professor Oak's nephew?
Yeah. All right, and then I'll leave it at that, actually. And do you have any major facts?
I sure do. I'm calling this major fact. You know the drill. The female acorn weevil uses her long, slender snout to drill into developing acorns. That's why they have a long snout, and the male has a short snout. They don't need as long a snout. She has a small, like a tiny little, like a little tiny jaw, like a mouth part, as it were, at the bottom of this proboscis. It looks like it comes to a point, but there's tiny moving mouth parts there. So it's like someone's doing duck lips, but it's like a straw face. It's very funny to think about. She uses these mouth parts to bore a tiny hole into an acorn. They also have antenna, which helps them fine tune to finding the right nut. But they're attached halfway down the rostrum. So rather than being attached to their head and being really long, they're attached to the rostrum. They're attached to the to the drill halfway down, so they can reach whatever they're tasting. So she finds the right acorn, one that's supple enough to drill into, but not too bitter and not too old. And she does this by using, she makes striations, like little cuts in where she's about to drill. And then she starts drilling by swiveling her head back and forth to work her way into the acorn. And her head and neck are kind of like a ball and socket joint, but more like a ballpoint pen. If you look at a ballpoint pen, really close, there's the cone has a tiny little metal ball that comes out of it that swivels, and that's how it works. Mm-hmm. It looks very similar to that. Their thorax has a little hole that their head is in, and it swivels in their thorax socket, if you will. And if you won't, they still do it. So the head swivels so much that their eyes can pass back into their thorax, can get tucked back into the thorax, which is weird to look at.
I don't want to.
So as they work their way into the hole, they're also eating the acorn. So the males have these shorter proboscises just to eat acorns. But the females have to get deeper into it for reasons. Also, they'll get so deep into the acorn that they get to where their antennas are attached. When they do this, there's like a little groove in the rostrum that they tuck their up to half of their antenna up into, so it's like smooth to keep drilling.
Okay.
So once the hole is made, she backs up and lays her eggs inside the hole, drops them down into the well she's made. The larvae then develop within the nut, feeding on it until they're ready to emerge, and they eat their way out of the nut flesh, which is a real term I kept reading today.
That's my favorite term.
The larvae feed on the kernel and, once fully developed, tunnel out of the nut. They fall to the ground and dig small chambers in the ground for themselves. So they remain in these chambers for 1 or 2 years before pupating. Also, they said that in British Columbia, up to 60% of acorns from Gary Oaks were infested with larvae. So like they're in most of the acorns, but these particular acorns can still germinate once they're infected.
Really?
But their germination rate is lower than uninfected nuts. So it does affect them negatively, but they not enough to like destroy all the yolks, because they would be like tanking oak germination.
The oak
because
supply.
It's 66%. Yeah. So yeah, that's if you look up a video of this happening, of them drilling into these little bugs, drilling into acorns, and like swiveling their head back and forth like a ballpoint pen. It looks like a perfectly designed creature. That's the only way I can describe it.
They're fracking. That's what they're doing.
They're looking for natural gas.
I also read that they specifically don't burrow too far in to damage the embryo of the acorn, and that keeps the acorn alive while it's attached, so that it heals the hole that the weevil made. So the weevil digs the hole, or drills the hole, puts her eggs in there, and then it closes up behind them, which protects them from parasites. And then they eat their way out.
Interesting. Yeah, good bug. Good little bug.
Yeah, and he'll sell you a map in Hollow Knight.
That's true.
You got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. That was the Acorn Weevil. For you out there in Podcastia, stay cool, but not frozen. Oviposit your eggs into your actual breakfast, and know that burrowing into an acorn is the root of all weevil, like the acorn weevil here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
I wonder what a full cup of pure Acorn Weevil water would taste like. It's pure water.
Pure Acorn Weevil water.
Would it taste like nothing, or would it taste like bugs?
Or would it taste like acorn weevils, probably. Maybe a little acorny.